Alright, hi. I said I would make it, so I am. Excuse the hair, I just showered. But, alright, so this is kind of, I guess, how I go about making a playlist, what I'm thinking about while I make a playlist, and how to sort of make a playlist in a conscious way so that it's like more of an active curation than just like tossing a bunch of songs onto a playlist and calling it a day. I have, a lot of thoughts on the subject, so this might be a long video. You're probably watching it because you're my friend and you want to know how I do it. But yeah, I'm gonna quit rambling and just sort of get to what I wrote out. So before you make the playlist, I think that the most important thing is clarity of purpose, like knowing what the playlist is for and why you're doing it. So it's like, what are you trying to say? Like, what's the theme? What's the vision? What's the idea? My best playlists, my favorite playlists, all have some kind of like tangible like goal or story in mind before I'm creating it and while I'm creating it. Like, are you trying to set a mood? Is this for like an event? Is it to collect a certain kind of songs in one place? Is it for a person? You want to like just choose a mission and have that in mind the whole time while you're making the playlist. After that, you're gonna want to kind of like center the playlist. It's like I won't make a playlist until I have 4 or 5 songs in mind-ish that I know will serve the intention of the playlist, and I put those in first. Like, they don't have to sound similar, they don't have to really even sound the same at all. As long as they all serve the purpose that you have in mind back in like step 1 or whatever, as long as they all serve that, it's like, it's cool. And like, this is also a good time to sort of decide what thread is going to tie the songs together. Like, is this a lyrical thing that they all have in common? Is it musical? Is it atmospheric? Is it like a combination? My cottagecore playlist, there were a couple of elements that I was keeping in mind while I was doing it. Musically, I wanted to hear a lot of flutes, harps, violins, guitars, and sounds that evoke like the feeling of those instruments, whatever that means. I wanted the tracks to feel sort of like nature and bird song, and I wanted there to be a clear folk influence, especially Irish and Japanese. I didn't really have a clear lyrical focus, but songs that touched on beauty in nature, isolation, small communities, stuff like that tend to come with the territory, so it ended up being a lot of that in the playlist. It wasn't necessarily planned, but that was just something that came about. For my another playlist that I have, it's like my Work is the World Let's Boogie playlist. I focused specifically on songs that had the lyrical, like it was more of a lyrical, sorry, there's cars outside my house. The lyrical sort of thing tying them all together was like a leftist message generally. So like sonically, it was all over the board, so all I had to really tie it all together was a lyrical thing, and that'll come into effect later with how you end up structuring the playlist, but I'll get into that. Sorry, I had to bring something back up on my computer. So now, like, sort of now that you've centered your playlist, you've got like 4 or 5, maybe more songs that you know you want on it. Now you're gonna sort of need to find more songs for it. The first thing I usually do is I'll look at other playlists, and this serves the purpose, yes, of finding songs, but also of seeing what's common in other playlists, what sort of sounds other people associate with this feeling, and deciding what I'm going to do to set mine apart from that, because there isn't much of a point to making a new playlist if all of the songs that you're going to use are on 100 different playlists. You need to be, at least I personally prefer to be like bringing something new to the table with what I'm doing. Like, there needs to be some kind of reason you're bringing this into existence, you know? So it's like I'll look through other playlists on Spotify is the platform I use, and sort of see like, okay, like what other, I'm just gonna use the cottagecore playlist as an example. Like what songs do people associate with this? Like, is this good? Is this something that I want, or do I want to be doing something different? Like, there were a lot of songs that did show up a lot on other cottagecore playlists that I ended up using anyway, like Strawberry Blonde by Mitski, The Bug Collector by Haley Hendricks, and To Be Alone With You by Stefan Stevens are three that, like, they showed up on a lot of other playlists with a similar theme in mind, but I decided to use them anyway because I like them. But like there were a lot of songs that showed up a bunch that would have fit that I decided not to use because I wanted to be bringing something new to the table. Yeah, that's that. So then sort of the next phase of finding new songs is like crowdsourcing them. I like to ask my friends, ask music communities that share the same taste as me. And then sort of this is the important part, you need to listen to the songs that they recommend and decide if they fit or not. Like, if you aren't sure, add it anyway, the filtering process will happen soon. But sort of, I'm saying it now and I'm gonna say it again later, this is your playlist. And like, just because someone recommends you a song, if it doesn't fit with the vibe that you're trying to go for, you don't have to add it. There's no law saying you have to add it. Like this ultimately is your playlist and it should be something that, like the recommendations, a lot of it will be coming from other people, but like the core of the playlist should be coming from you, and if you don't love a song, don't put it on. Another way to find new songs, going online. There's places like, Jesus Christ. I use Rate Your Music, Every Noise at Once, and I browse genre tags, old forum posts, stuff like that to find things that might fit. Rate Your Music in particular, I find really useful to find sort of like more niche stuff. And then Every Noise at Once has a lot of like insight song samples, so you don't have to switch back and forth between Spotify and or you know whatever platform you're using in the website, which is just like super convenient. So it's like those can be useful. If you want to transition between two songs, like if you're maybe centering this playlist around two songs that sound really different, if you want to find sort of ways to bridge that gap sonically, Boil the Frog is a really good one. Can help with sort of figuring out what songs to use, yes, to transition between these two, but also like what kinds of things you can find in between the two. I'm not explaining it very well, but like, you know, just go to the website, you'll figure it out, you're smart. All right, and now sort of, this is like the bulk of where this is the bulk of what I do. Like I spend anywhere from like a couple of hours to a couple of weeks on a playlist. It widely varies, but the majority of the time is spent on curating and trimming. So like you want to listen to like what you have all the time on shuffle. Like I listen to mine when I'm in the car, when I'm doing dishes at work, like while I'm walking places, just like at home, you know, fucking around on my phone. Like listen to everything, like just on shuffle. If something feels wildly out of place, take it out. If something's missing, go find more tracks. If the playlist needs to be relatively short and some of the tracks feel too similar, decide which ones you like the best, cut out the rest. If you don't like a track, cut it. Like the playlist is yours and the music on it should reflect that. You aren't obligated to use every recommendation you get. And then another thing is to keep track of how many songs you use from one artist or one album. It's a given that all the songs on one album will fit together really well most of the time, but like that kind of sucks the joy out of making a playlist. Like part of the joy I find in making a playlist is creating something new, and using a bunch of tracks from the same artist and album like isn't really anything new. You aren't saying anything new there. In my personal opinion, you're, you know, welcome to do it however you like. And then ordering the playlist. This is where I kind of geek out a little bit. I could talk about this probably forever, but I won't. So it's like you need to decide first on a flow, what story do you want these tracks to tell? Now is the time to set things into a general order. I wanted my cottagecore playlist to flow from early morning into late night, so I started grouping things roughly by genre and instrumentation, and then putting these blocks into a general order that reflected the story I was trying to tell. So for structure, I think that structure is one of the most interesting things to me just in the world, like structure and narrative structure just in general, and sort of like how to structure even a playlist, like even something as simple as a playlist can be super interesting. Bring out the book. This was a textbook for one of my classes actually, and one of my creative writing classes, and it just completely reframed the way that I see structure. It's called Meander, Spiral, Explode by Jane Allison, and she just, sort of the main focus here is sort of like modeling things after structures in nature, and it's of course a book about writing, so most of the advice applies to writing like fiction, stories, that kind of thing, but sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. But it can be applied to whatever you want. I recommend reading it no matter what your art is, what you're like, what thing you do, just because I just found it super useful. But like the book looks at story structure through the lens of natural motion, and I apply that framework to most of the stories that I'm trying to tell, no matter what the format is. So like if you aren't sure about a flow for your playlist, think about the way that things move in light, and pick one that suits the vibe, and then try to reflect that. Like be like a ripple or something falling from a great height, a heartbeat, just like a traditional sort of wave pattern. There's literally endless things you could do. I once structured a story after sort of a river branching off into different paths. The next one that I want to do is I want to structure it after like the ocean, but specifically like the deep sea, and sort of the feeling of like things like sort of a surface and then going deeper in the pressure that kind of builds up over you and not being able to see under you. I want to do something that gets at that feeling. And then this isn't a playlist, it's an album. It's called Everywhere at the End of Time by The Caretaker. And the structure that that album takes is of a person experiencing dementia, and sort of the I guess the mental deterioration that happens in it. It's a 6-hour long project. I would only listen to it if you have 6 hours to spare. But I think that that's a really interesting look into like a structure and like how to sort of structure something after a natural process. If I'm not being clear, which I'm probably not, I'm trying to keep it quick, and I'm also not a teacher by any means. So, and then sort of like more of like the nitty gritty of ordering a playlist. You want to open on a strong note. The first song should be something that sets the tone for the rest of the playlist. And then after that, just start rearranging things. Turn on crossfade, turn off shuffle, and then listen to the last 20 seconds of a song and the first 20 seconds of the next one. The transition doesn't have to be perfectly seamless, but it shouldn't be jarring unless your intent is for it to be jarring. If it is, try something else, rinse and repeat until the playlist is in order. And now listen to it the whole way through and make adjustments as you see fit. Again, this can take like, I've done playlists in like an hour or two where I'll sit down, I'll make it in an hour, and I'll just do like the last 20 seconds, first 20 seconds thing. If you have the time, definitely listen to the whole thing through, because stuff can catch you off guard once when you're actually just letting the songs play through all the way. I don't know what the hell that bug is. There's like, it's either bugs or birds outside that make this noise, like, usually starts around now and ends, like, probably for like an hour. It's weird. I don't know if it's cicadas. I've never lived in a place that has cicadas before, so I don't know if it's that, but it could be. I don't know. Anyway, now you're done with the playlist. What are you gonna do? You gotta kind of decide what you want to do with it. Are you gonna update it? How often? This is where you want to circle kind of background to the purpose. If it's like a more like, I guess, commercial centered playlist, you probably want to decide how often to update it, how many songs to remove, and how many songs to add each time. I generally don't update my playlist, like very rarely, if at all. So like if I find something new that suits the vibe, like I'll put it on, but generally my playlists aren't for like constant updates and discovery. But if that is something you want to do, then you need to decide how you're going to do that, set the schedule. Sort of more trivial things like deciding on a name for the playlist. Again, if it's a more commercial thing, you're going to want to pick a name that uses keywords that people are going to use to discover this playlist. If it's just like for you and like some friends, or just for you and if it's not like a commercial thing, you can kind of do whatever you want. You know, I like to get creative with it, but it can, like, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can just be 2020 if you want, or, you know, just as an example. And then I guess picking a picture, I just kind of Google, like I'll Google like a word and then contemporary photography, and that's usually just what I'll use. Again, if it's a more commercial thing, if your goal is to like get a bunch of followers on this playlist, you will probably want to make your own image, either take the photo yourself or use a royalty-free photo. There's a bunch of websites for that. I don't know any off the top of my head, but they exist. Use just like a photo that's free to use, and then like add some text on top of it. There you go, there's your thing. I find like Spotify's unlikely to take legal action against me because I'm not like promoting these playlists heavily, but again, do whatever you want with that. I thought this video was going to be longer. I've tried to kind of not ramble too much, but yeah, that's what I have to say on the subject. If you have questions, you can like DM me on Instagram or text me or whatever, and I will I'd be so happy to talk to you about this stuff because it's something I have a lot of fun with. But yeah, that's it for the video. I told you guys I would make it, and then I did.